This weekend, tens of thousands of South Africans living abroad are at the polls in the most anticipated elections since 1994. Let's now get some reaction from Ludré Stevens, DA Abroad Chairperson, and Alvin, NEC member and member of the International Relations Subcommittee of the ANC. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Ludré, perhaps I'll begin with you. You are in London. It's just after 8 p.m. currently. How did you view the participation of South Africans living abroad, especially in London, when it came to today's elections?
We had an amazing turnout today, and the queue is still going. They're only closing the queue at 9 o'clock. So the queue is still full. There's still an hour and a half waiting time. Has been amazing. We've also monitored the election all the way when it started from Wellington all the way through Hong Kong, Dubai, and Los Angeles is now open as well. I must say that the vibe is excellent. The atmosphere is great. It's very collegiate. At one point, the queue was about 4 hours here in London, and people did not complain. People were not upset. It was really a tremendous turnout today.
Well, that's very good to know that many of our South African compatriots across the globe are participating in the way that they are. Alvin, let's bring you into this conversation. What efforts did your political party make in order to engage with South Africans that are living abroad and encourage them to participate in today's voting process?
Well, Katleho, thank you very much. You know, the ANC, it's obviously an organization with an internationalist outlook. So we have a reach across the world. We, in particular in the global south, obviously in the more industrialized north, we have those progressive members that are catalysts and to ensure that democracy are in action and make sure that we mobilize those that, aspirations is reconcilable with a better life for all that we propagate through President Ramaphosa, of course.
And Ludré, were there any challenges, especially in the areas that you were in or in some other areas that you heard of in terms of barriers that were faced by South Africans voting overseas?
So, there weren't any major issues. There was just some hurdles here and there. So, for example, at one point in The Hague in the Netherlands, the queues had to change around, and so the police helped them to move around. And there are always the odd issue here and there, but we have we have trained 101 DA party agents that we deployed across more than 30 locations. And we monitored the elections all the way from Wellington. We're still going, as I mentioned, in the cities, and also doing London tomorrow. And happy to report so far, there's been no major issues. The IC has been very responsive to any of our feedback, and touch wood, so far so good, to be honest.
And Alvin, with regards to the agents that you have on the ground, any challenges that you received from an ANC perspective?
Well, for the international voting that have actually encapsulated the past 2 days, Katleho, the normal democratic issues are at play. We have obviously invested in high caliber of party agents. And I think we are confident that this first step in, producing a very, very positive democratic dividend for the ANC have gone out well. And we are obviously looking forward with anticipation on the actual outcome of this vote by the South African diaspora living elsewhere.
And I mean, Alvin, you mentioned that the ANC has an internationalist outlook. What do you think were some of the key factors that contributed to the success of engaging South Africans abroad in the voting process? And do you think the same enthusiasm will be seen from South Africans at home on the 29th of May?
Well, Katleho, when South African diaspora look at, our role in the international community, they look obviously from the optics of our principal standpoint. For example, The Hague, it's one of the biggest voting stations. We just had our ICJ case where we have espoused, the value system that Nelson Mandela have actually enshrined in his political party, the ANC. If you look at a big voting station like Dublin in Ireland, where South Africa's president has been the catalyst to bring about the Good Friday peace agreement. So South Africans look at how the rest of the world perceive us to do. And obviously, Katlego, what is amazing news is that South Africa is not only the most industrialist economy, but the World Bank have confirmed that South Africa is also now Africa's biggest economy, surpassing Nigeria. So those are the multiplicity of factors that bodes very well for the ANC, and we are obviously absolutely confident. We have followed all the polls, and the majority of the polls have suggested that more than 77% of South Africans are actually confident in the leadership of President Ramaphosa, and that will dialectically translate into a significant vote for the ANC.
Ludré, do you believe that the views and perspectives of South Africans living abroad are adequately represented in our political landscape?
So I must disagree with Mr. Botha's. Every single conversation I've had today with people in London and voters from Hong Kong all the way to the US is they came out in droves because they are sick and tired of corruption, load shedding, water shedding, cadre deployment, failed state entities. They did not come out there because of the reasons that Mr. Botha has mentioned. They came out because they are, this is their chance to make a difference. This is the first time in 30 years that there's political fluidity in the country where the outcome of who's going to be the national government isn't a set outcome. And I think that is what had this tremendous turnout. So this year, 24,000 people registered in London. Last time it was only 8,000. And that is because they see this as an opportunity to get rid of all of these issues that is just absolutely draining our country. So this is their stance to stand up against all of these things that we just know should not be there. So it's definitely a positive stand up against power, this election turnout.
And Alvin, your response to that disagreement?
Well, I think Mr. Stevens clearly doesn't live at the moment in South Africa, Katlego, because load shedding, for all practical reasons, is an issue of the past. We have unfettered, energy availability, high energy availability of our factors surpassing 65%. So we have made decisive intervention under the leadership of President Ramaphosa. You know about also the green economy, the enlargement of the capacity generating capabilities that we have afforded the private sector. So, for example, Katlego, London is the single biggest tourist, that we receive into South Africa, long-haul tourists. The UK is the largest FDI, foreign direct investor in South Africa. And remember, if you look at the optics through which His Majesty King Charles III look at South Africa, President Ramaphosa, the president of the ANC, had the singular privilege to be the first head of state to have been received by His Majesty King Charles III. So there's confidence in the endowment process, in the democratic yield. It's only in South Africa, Katlego, where every year, since the inception of the commitments President Ramaphosa made, that we employ 10,000 new police officers. It's only in South Africa where you have a substantive social security system which encapsulates and covers more than 26 million South Africans. So the ANC is obviously in a good space, and we are absolutely buoyant and confident that the democratic changes and the governance changes that the ANC president have made would stand the ANC in good fortune in the immediate upcoming general elections on the 29th of May, Katlego.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we have run out of time. It would have been a very interesting discussion to take it a lot further, but we are seeing many South Africans heading to the polls, and certainly those numbers will contribute immensely to the final outcome of the May 29 elections. Thank you so much for your time. That was Ludré Stevens, DA Abroad Chairperson, and Alvin Botha, NEC member and a member of the International Relations Subcommittee of the ANC.